Alexandra Morgan stepped into Judge Raymond Harlow's courtroom, files clutched tightly against her chest. The high-profile corruption case had consumed her for months, but something in Harlow's cold stare told her this wasn't just another hearing. It was personal. She just didn't know why. Yet, the courtroom fell silent as she approached the prosecution table. Judge Harlow barely acknowledged Lexi as she arranged her documents. The defendant, real estate mogul Victor Reeves, sat smugly with his defense team, their Italian suits and confident smirks a stark contrast to the gravity of the charges. Ms. Morgan, Judge Harlow finally spoke, his voice dripping with disdain. I assume you prepared something substantive today, or should we skip to where you waste the court's time? A ripple of chuckles spread through the defense section. Lexi straightened her spine. Your Honor, the evidence will speak for itself. This case involves the misappropriation of federal housing funds. Federal funds, Harlow interrupted, feigning a yawn, because that's never been the foundation of a frivolous prosecution before. Lexi maintained her composure. Respectfully, Your Honor, $4 million in diverted taxpayer money is hardly frivolous. Their eyes locked, his cold and calculating, hers unwavering. Ms. Morgan, he cut in again, spare me the lectures. Get to the point or dismiss your case. The gallery murmured. Even the court reporter glanced up, sensing the unusual hostility. Lexi noticed a juror, a woman in her 50s, furrowing her brow at the judge's tone. Something wasn't right. Judges could be tough, but this felt targeted, personal. Lexi regrouped, refusing to be derailed. Your Honor, I'd like to direct the court's attention to Exhibit A, financial records showing systematic diversion of funds. Judge Harlow sighed dramatically. Ms. Morgan, do you always drown people in paperwork, or is this your way of compensating for a weak case? The defense attorney smirked. Reporters scribbled furiously. Lexi placed the documents on the projector. These records show Mr. Reeves received triply approved funding for the West Side Development Project. Ms. Morgan, Harlow began, and none of it appears in official state records, she continued, her voice steady. That's enough. Harlow slammed his gavel. I've seen enough numbers for one day. Lexi paused, studying him. His reaction was disproportionate, almost protective. Your Honor, with respect, these numbers are the foundation of our case. And yet, he scoffed, I fail to see anything justifying this witch hunt. The courtroom atmosphere shifted. A bailiff exchanged glances with the court clerk. The jury was paying attention, not just to the case, but to the judge's behavior. Lexi moved to her next exhibit. I'd like to submit a motion to... Denied, Harlow snapped. I haven't stated the motion yet. And yet, I can already tell it's going nowhere. The tension in courtroom 305 was palpable. Lexi was about to present her next piece of evidence when Judge Harlow's demeanor suddenly shifted. Federal Prosecutor Morgan approached the bench, he commanded, his voice no longer dripping with sarcasm but tight with something else, fear. Lexi walked forward, aware of every eye in the courtroom following her. When she reached the bench, Harlow leaned forward, lowering his voice just enough that only she could hear. I'd strongly suggest you reconsider the direction you're taking, Ms. Morgan. She tilted her head slightly. Excuse me? I'm saying, he murmured, that some fights aren't worth having. Some evidence isn't worth presenting. The threat hung in the air between them, unmistakable despite its vagueness. Lexi leaned in just an inch closer. I don't intimidate easily, Judge Harlow. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Then you're not as smart as your reputation suggests. Lexi returned to her table, mind racing. That wasn't just judicial arrogance. It was desperation. Judge Harlow wasn't merely biased. He was protecting something. Your Honor, I'd like to continue presenting my evidence, she stated, voice clear and unwavering. Harlow hesitated, then nodded curtly. Proceed, but keep it brief. Lexi didn't acknowledge the jab. Instead, she placed a document on the projector. This is the contract signed between Mr. Reeves and the Department of Urban Development, outlining the approved project expenses of $2.3 million. She let the courtroom absorb this, then placed a second document beside it. And this is an internal ledger from Reeves Development showing actual funds transferred, $6.7 million. The defense team shifted uncomfortably. Victor Reeves whispered urgently to his attorney. Finally, Lexi continued, placing a third document on projector. This is the approval signature authorizing the additional transfers. She paused, letting tension build. The signature belongs to Judge Raymond Harlow. The courtroom erupted. The defense attorney jumped to his feet. Reporters gasped audibly. A juror dropped her notepad. Judge Harlow sat frozen, his face ashen. Your Honor, Lexi pressed, would you care to explain why your signature appears on unauthorized financial transactions involving the defendant? Harlow's fingers gripped the bench. That document, he said slowly, is inadmissible. On what grounds? It was obtained improperly. Lexi tilted her head. Your Honor, this document was legally subpoenaed by my office. Then it was mishandled. His voice rose. I'm ruling it inadmissible. Lexi stood her ground. You realize this is a public hearing? That everyone here just witnessed you declare critical evidence inadmissible without legal basis. The courtroom fell silent as Lexi reached into her briefcase. Judge Harlow's eyes followed her every move, a vein pulsing visibly at his temple. Your Honor, she said calmly, since you've questioned the admissibility of documentary evidence, perhaps you'll find audio evidence more compelling. She placed a small digital recorder on the table and pressed play. A voice, unmistakably Harlow's, filled the courtroom. Take care of it. I don't care how. Just make sure she doesn't get those ledgers. Another voice responded. It's risky. The federal prosecutor. I'll handle Morgan in court. Just do your job and make the documents disappear. Lexi stopped the recording. The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Harlow's face had drained of all color. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably, hand moving toward his weapon. That recording, Harlow finally managed, voice barely audible, is fabricated. Is it? Lexi countered. Because the FBI's forensic audio lab has verified its authenticity. And the second voice belongs to Mr. Reeves' chief financial officer, who, as of this morning, has agreed to testify against both of you in exchange for immunity. She turned to face the stunned courtroom. Your Honor, I'm not just prosecuting Victor Reeves today. I'm also here to warrant for your arrest on charges of obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and judicial misconduct. The next few minutes unfolded like a scene from a movie. 2 FBI agents emerged from the gallery, badges displayed. Judge Raymond Harlow, the man who had presided over this courtroom with impunity for 15 years, was read his rights as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. This is outrageous, he sputtered as they led him away. You'll regret this, Morgan. Victor Reeves and his legal team sat in stunned silence. Their smugness evaporated. By evening, the story dominated every news channel. Federal judge arrested in open court screamed the headlines. Footage of Harlow being escorted out went viral within hours. The interim judge appointed to the case ordered Reeves held without bail, citing flight risk. 3 more developers came forward with similar stories of judicial extortion. Back at her office, Lexi fielded calls from the Attorney General and the Director of the FBI. What had begun as a single corruption case had exposed a network of judicial misconduct spanning multiple districts. You've opened Pandora's box, her supervisor said, dropping a stack of case files on her desk. We've identified 7 more judges with suspicious financial ties. Lexi nodded, exhausted but resolute. No one should be above the law, especially not those entrusted to uphold it. 6 months later, Alexandra Morgan stood on the courthouse steps, cameras flashing around her. The Harlow case had triggered the largest judicial corruption investigation in decades. 12 judges, 23 developers, and 8 government officials now face charges. Today's sentencing sends a clear message, she told the press. Our justice system only works when those who administer it are held to the highest standard. Judge Harlow's 15-year sentence had just been announced. The man who once looked down on her from the bench would now view the world through prison bars. What troubled Lexi most wasn't Harlow's corruption, but how long it had gone unchallenged. How many innocent people had suffered under his biased rulings? How many had lost faith in the system meant to protect them? This case reminds us that justice requires vigilance, she reflected. When we see something wrong, we must have the courage to speak up regardless of power dynamics. As Lexi walked away, her phone buzzed with messages from citizens reporting similar cases nationwide. Have you witnessed corruption in your local courts? Share your story below. Justice shouldn't depend on wealth or connections. Together, we can hold the powerful accountable. Subscribe for more stories of everyday heroes fighting systemic corruption.